Welcome to another edition of Soapbox Speakers. Soapbox Speakers. I fucked it up already. Way! Otherwise known as Jake got fired and doesn't give a fuck. Oh yeah!
So are we calling this video the dankest podcast so far?
No,
is that what this is going to be?
Or what, the dankest podcast so far of me just wallowing in self-pity.
No, you don't.
Like.
You don't
By
give
the
a
way,
shit.
when I say Jake got fired, I literally mean Jake got fired like an hour ago and came straight here to do a podcast. So
Yeah.
priorities, man, priorities.
Apologies for the delay. I mean, given our audience base, I don't think anyone noticed. But we've both been busy, so we haven't been able to do.
We both had laps.
Yes.
One weekend after another.
Now.
Which might happen quite a lot over the summer. So,
Yeah, there's going to be some throwback stuff to previous podcasts that I just want to kind of open with. A couple of podcasts ago, Jake asked the question of like, what would be the next thing with respect to like recognised social groups that currently are really underrepresented and the way the media portrays them. And there is one that I'm currently seeing do the rounds tentatively, and it's been kind of happening off and on for the last decade or so. And it's taken on different guises. This latest iteration is trans age.
Because I identify as a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah, so it's kind of used as potential justification for, in some instances, pedophilia.
Well, that reminds me, actually, I watched is it Louis Theroux? Is that
Louis
his name?
Theroux, yeah.
One of his documentaries, LA Lifestyles or something like that, where he hung out with a bunch of paedophiles.
Yep.
And I was like, this is grim in every sense of the word. Like, there was no... Like the fact that what they did was horrific, but also what they then have to go through once they've already done their jail time is also pretty damn bad. So we get straight in there with fucking paedophilia, really. That's a good start.
Dankest podcast.
Yeah.
On that subject. No, go on.
I was just going to say there was this one lady in the show that had an affair with a 14-year-old boy. Had done 2 years in jail and then was on probation for like 3 years and wasn't allowed to see her kids. And wasn't allowed to have pictures of her kids because of the laws revolving around people that are on the register. And I was like, this is like, the woman's clearly a bit off, but like, I don't know, man. Like, it's such a hard topic. Anyway,
it is, and it's a difficult topic to kind of have a discussion about without there being massive ramifications for saying what you said and it being like analysed and quote mined. Much like criticism of Israel, I find.
Yeah, but fuck Israel. So, sorry, you were talking over that. Just be silent for a second. Yeah, fuck Israel. There we go. Now they can mine it properly.
Not that I'm comparing Israelis to pedophiles or anything.
Oh man, that's beautiful. So anyway,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure some Israelis are pedophiles. I don't want to deny that. I don't want to deny them that.
Hashtag not all Israelis.
Yeah.
Hashtag not all men.
Yeah. So I think the new one potentially is going to be like trans age.
Yeah.
And the trans age is going to be like, not to say that. Sorry, just to be clear here. Trans issues, I accept, are completely valid and a relevant thing to discuss. I'm not criticising that. I feel as if trans age is being used as a springboard off of that.
Sorry, I feel like you missed an opportunity there. It's a shame to have to break the narrative and have to sit here and explain the fact that we're okay with trans people, we agree with the movement, and we agree that they should have all the rights that other people should have and not have to live their lives in fear. However...
Oh, no, there's not a however here. I just kind of want to make that distinction clear between this issue of trans age, because basically, because it has the prefix trans, they can take all that social credit that the trans movement has taken time to cultivate and acquire through fucking blood, sweat and tears, as far as I can tell. And they're appropriating that for their own agenda, which is to basically justify having relationships with children. And no, I'm not okay with that one.
As in, this child identifies as a 20-year-old, so it's okay.
Yeah.
You see, because my mind immediately went to this 40-year-old identifies as a 12-year-old because they're a bit crazy and that's all right and leave them to it, as opposed to.
Now they're using it. I think they're potentially going to use it as a springboard to kind of get around. Because if you can if you can legally change your gender, then can you
change your age?
Can you?
Well, there are all those instances of people signing over custody of 13-year-old girls to rock stars so they can have sex with them.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely.
Like so.
You know the actor who played Percy Whitmore in the actor who played Percy Whitmore in Green Mile. The creepy the guy who spoilers. The guy who shot Buffalo Bill. Not Buffalo Bill, Wild Bill. He was one of the guards on the Green Mile. Right? Percy, the guy who killed the mouse.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
The actor who plays him married a 15-year-old girl when he was 50, and her parents basically signed over custody, and because I think it was in Texas, and in Texas you can do that. The parents, if they consent, can allow effectively an underage girl to marry someone, and because of that
only
marriage,
in Texas.
Yeah, it's hot, right?
And other parts of the Middle East and lots of parts of Asia.
Fucking hell.
So really, more of the world allows it than not.
That's a fair point.
So.
The old bandwagon argument, yeah.
So if everyone's doing it, it must be okay.
Can't be that bad. Everyone's sin is nobody's sin.
Oh. This is one of the points where I get to quote a fucking retarded stupid music band. Sorry, retarded stupid band of their lyrics and make it sound really profound. So you tell me 100 million people can't be wrong, and I'll tell you 100 million people are fucking morons. Boom. MSI. There we go.
Nice plug there.
You're welcome. No, nobody listens to mindless self-indulgence anymore.
I'm sure.
There are no teenagers left. There's no angsty emos.
There are no emos anymore. They've all become too self-aware.
No, they just sit in a corner going, "What have I become?"
I mean, on that note, and we did kind of touch on this earlier. This is another subject I kind of wanted to. I've been meaning to bring up for a while in podcasts, which is people really need to recognise shit posting for what it is, and through recognising it, need to realise that they just need to get over themselves. So someone who does a post that is and this is don't feed the trolls kind of narrative, but shit posting is a variant of trolling, which depending on how it's done, can have a point. Trolling in and of itself tends to have no kind of agenda, whereas shit posting can.
I mean, I've got a little bit upset with the fact that everything gets labelled as trolling now, and it really bugs me because trolling is a very specific niche kind of way of behaving on the internet, and I quite often get labelled as a troll, and I'm not a troll just because I'm right and you're wrong. All right, so fuck off.
You're a shit poster. This is my point, right?
Well.
So, okay, you're okay. So
I'd like to think I'm unique. To
make it to kind of give you and this is going to be really difficult if people really hate this person, but take Milo Yiannopoulos.
Who?
Milo Yiannopoulos.
I have no idea who that is.
It's interesting because he went to our same school.
Did he?
He did.
Okay.
Simon Langton Grammar School.
Oh, the guy who came back to do the
talk, but was not allowed.
Talk, but wasn't allowed.
Deplatformed.
Yeah.
So Milo is he's a provocateur. He says what the
makes him sound like a sex worker. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow. Clearly doesn't know what provocateur is.
Yeah. No, I do. It sounds like something that we should reappropriate the name to be hey.
Are you confusing provocateur with provocative?
Yes.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm doing. But I'm doing it on purpose in order to be funny.
Not to make the ontological argument here.
Now I feel like it's ruined a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, you were saying.
Sorry, was I just trolling you there by pointing out how you were wrong?
So let's talk about Biblionopolis, all right?
Milo Yiannopoulos. So he's a shit poster. He makes outrageous comments that he knows is going to gain traction, but he does do it for a point. It's the same as iconoclasm. What the fuck? What's broken you this time?
Bilbo Bobbles.
Oh, the Dankest podcast referencing the Dankest memes.
Oh man, it broke me. Keep going.
Yeah, I'm
Keep
gonna
going.
try, but like you, like shrieking, like at your own ability to remember things. Like,
No, what? No, Bilbo Bopolopoulos, as in like Milo Meopolopoulos, whatever the fuck his name was. Oh,
Milo
that's what I was laughing at in
Yiannopoulos.
my own head, and I just fucking went off on one.
yeah, I know,
Oh, and it got a little bit hysterical.
and it was distracting.
Oh, and now people have listened to me fucking shriek
Laughing at your own
for
jokes.
like 3 minutes at a joke that I said in my head.
Exactly.
So I mentioned I got fired.
And you expected me to talk over. So take iconoclasm, which is where you take things that are hugely important, like with respect to like national identity, and you subvert them. So like "God Save the Queen" by the Sex Pistols would be a form of iconoclasm. It was designed deliberately to be provocative, to challenge this notion of like nationalism and allegiance to the Queen.
Yeah. It was also a bit shit though.
That's fine, but the point is, like, it was like that is a form of iconoclasm. And the question here is not like whether or not you like it.
Oh, I know.
The question is whether or not it's a legitimate form of criticism,
I just
right?
felt like throwing my opinion in there, seeing as this is a podcast, so kind of all about our opinions.
That's true.
And,
but like an aesthetic opinion, I don't really see the
plus,
relevance.
I feel like some punk rock hate mail, so
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Sex Pistols are great, man. They don't know what we fucking talk about.
We'd have to have a fan base for that.
Hey man, we've got like 50 views, something like that. That's a fan base.
It's getting there, yeah. So
He says with complete like a lack of emotion. Anyway, I've massively disrailed this, and I apologise.
derailed,
What did I say?
disrailed.
Oh shit, man, that's embarrassing.
It's all right. We do it all the time.
Do we? Oh, that's
Yeah.
alright then.
Yeah.
You re-listen.
No, we've done it in this podcast already.
Oh right, okay.
And yes.
When you're listening to our podcasts again, which you actually need to do, like somebody needs to, and I'm glad it's you.
Yeah, which is why I'm doing all these kind of throwback references to stuff.
As soon as you started doing it, I was like, man, that guy's on point.
Yeah, because like there's been development since,
He
and
does
it's kind of
research,
interesting.
He re-listens. That is not a word. What is the word? Oh. He listens to his podcasts again, and then he does little throwback things, and it's all fucking great, and I'm sitting here, fucking slob, done nothing.
The point I wanted to make here about shit posting is like, look, you have to accept that when you are on a content generator, a user generated content site, so things like Facebook, things like YouTube, things like Reddit, right? You're going to come across some shit that is going to offend you. And you have to understand the fact that in this space of the internet, your offence means fuck all. Okay? Like you can huff and you can whore and you can rail, but if you can't defend your ideas or like deconstruct the shit that you like hate without just calling people names or without like just calling someone like an epitaph, like you need to get over yourself. You seriously do. You're clunking up all this space for everyone else who actually wants to have a serious conversation
About the shit post.
Yeah, and a shitpost is there simply to kind of provoke ideas and discussion.
Yeah, I feel like, again, this is where we're like reading way too far into it, and the person who actually posts it is literally just trolling.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, but this is my point. There are two different types of thing. There is trolling, which I accept as a thing, and then there is shitposting, which is there to kind of
I guess.
Like a prime example of this in like the real world would be anti-Semitism in Labour. It is a narrative that is just repeatedly said, but the only actual evidence that I've actually since cited, which is still up for review and debate as to whether or not it's anti-Semitic, is Ken Livingstone. So my question here is, where is the problem with anti-Semitism within Labour exactly? Could you give me some examples of things that have been done?
Matt.
It's not. They just keep saying.
No, it's in the media, Matt. That's where the problem is.
Oh, okay.
That's where the problem has been created. That's where it lives.
Yeah, but this goes back to my point about, no, this is just people humming and hawing, stating that they are offended.
Whoring in the Labour Party? That's frontline news right there. Labour Party commits whoring within its own party.
As soon as, I would argue as soon as you become a politician, there's going to be a certain element of selling yourself.
Yeah, but just there's a big difference between selling yourself and whoring.
Mm-hmm. Back on point. So like this
Where is
issue,
the point, though?
this issue of anti-Semitism in Labour is a prime example of what I'm on about, where it's just people kind of getting on the bandwagon of offence and saying that they're fucking offended. This is kind of all connected to everything that we said before. When allegations are meant against are railed against Kevin Spacey, he's hung out to fucking dry. And this isn't a defence for Kevin Spacey or Jimmy Savile, but where was this for David Bowie? Like, it is a completely inconsistent narrative, and it's got everything to do with what's the word? Trial by public opinion.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell. Same with this anti-Semitism in Labour thing. It's got nothing to do with facts. It's got everything to do with the narrative you can spin. And I blame like 24/7 news media for this, and I blame basically the massively interconnected nature of most of the ways we communicate and browse the web now. And there is a whole bunch of stuff that I kind of is related to this, so we may as well jump to that.
All right.
There's a film, actually. This is a prime example of this. There's a film called Whitewashed. Okay, I forget who put it together. It's on YouTube. You can find.
That's that thing that you made me watch.
Yeah.
Boy-o.
It's like 15 minutes long, and it turns out and it's basically a series of interviews and snippets of really poorly edited interviews with people talking about how they feel there is anti-Semitism within Labour. Don't cite any examples. They just say that the Chakrabarti report, they wrote in their grievances, their specific observations, and their grievances and observations weren't included in the final Chakrabarti report. They don't at any point say these were our concerns. They just say, yes, I contacted them. It didn't turn up in the report. Go on, sorry, what were you going to say?
My favourite part of all of this is the fact that they say that everything that they sent, essentially, like, the whole video is basically made by 4 or 5 people that felt like they had something really important to say about anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, and when they weren't included in the report, got a bit butthurt and decided they were going to make their own fucking YouTube video report with blackjack and hookers and fuck the Labour Party, which is fine. I have nothing wrong with that. They're entitled to do whatever the fuck they like with their time and effort and make your own thing and whatever. However, they then go, all of the things that we sent into the Labour Party
it wasn't Labour Party, it was Chakrabarti, the report done by Chakrabarti.
Everything we sent into the inquiry, we have posted online, and it's also in our book. But lo and behold, when Matt tries to find it online, he can't find it, and it's only in the book that you have to buy. And then when Matt asks them directly, where are all of these quotes that you wanted, they go, oh, they're not online, but you can buy the book. So you've got to buy the book to read the stuff that they're talking about, and they're so upset
There is
about.
more to this. So they make a big point at the end of the film saying that the observations by each person interviewed are available online or in their book, which is the Whitewashed book, I think, or something like that. Now, like Jake says, I tried to find these, couldn't find them. So I email them, because this thing has a website, and I contact I forget what their name is and what their role is, but it's basically like public liaison kind of position. And I emailed them and get a reply, which was relatively quick, shall we say. They didn't just stop contacting me. Yeah, I asked specifically, where it says in your video that these things are available online. Where are they available online specifically? And they said, oh no, it's then they sell this what I felt was like a pre-written message. As saying the real kind of the video and the real substance of the argument, the critique, is in the book, right? And then they send me a link to the Amazon thing, as if I can't fucking look up a book. I had already found the book, and so here's the thing: that the organisation that put that together, the proceeds from buying that book go to that organisation so they can do more of this work. So I may not agree with their cause, but in order to actually find out what their cause is, I have to buy their book and finance them. I have a problem with that.
Can't think why.
Yeah, and then also I asked, so I get them to kind of quite clearly say in an email, no, they aren't available online. And then they're so you're saying they're not available online, and she responds with, I'm afraid not. And then as an afterthought goes, it is available on Kindle though. Great, that's not what I was asking. Online in the sense that you can buy it online. So, so
It's ridiculous.
this whitewash video is a prime example of it. It's just a bunch of people claiming about a bunch of shit that happens without going into too many specifics. And the only point in the video where it does go into specifics is where Ken Livingstone said some things that offended people. Okay, where he said that Hitler was a Zionist. Now,
that's not what he said.
Now,
that is not what he said. No.
He did specifically say Hitler was a Zionist. And
did he?
And just to be clear, he legit was. Like,
I don't know why you hid your mouth from the mic there when you said that.
Because apparently this is from some fucking conspiracy theory. When I always thought this was common knowledge in the annals of history. It's like, before Hitler went to the whole gas to Jews scenario, he was like, why don't we just move them all to a place? You know, like those conservative Christians who are like, why don't we just put all the gays on an island, right? That was Hitler's initial strategy.
And that place was Israel.
And therefore Hitler was a Zionist. He believed in the Zionist movement, which was the establishment of a nation-state of the Jewish people, which came to be known as Israel. I don't understand what's so fucking complicated about this. And I don't understand what's so fucking anti-Semitic about Ken Livingstone pointing that one out, given the context of the interview that he's in.
I've just had, like, a horrific idea for a very awful book.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to pitch it to you right now.
Go on then.
It's an alternative history book, right?
Mm.
Where Hitler is busy as a Zionist, moving all of the Jews to Israel, or essentially supporting the movement, and then a time traveller comes back and shows Hitler what is created through the formation of Israel in like 2100, and so the entire Holocaust is all about Hitler trying to stop that future occurring.
That may just be
the best idea for a book ever.
The most anti-Semitic thing certain Zionists have ever heard.
But do you know what? I think it would sell.
I think it would. I think your market would be pretty niche, like members of the KKK and like, white nationalists.
But the whole thing is a huge piss take.
Like
right?
satire.
It's a whole satire. It's full of like satirical references to stuff. Okay, so really, I think my.
There is a film actually which I'm going to recommend.
My customer base is going to be most.
There is a film like this, just to be clear. Sorry.
What was the film?
It's a German film. It's called Look Who's Back.
Mm.
And basically, the moment before Hitler commits suicide by shooting himself, he suddenly gets dragged into a portal and gets teleported to like 2010 Berlin.
Right.
And the whole world's changed, right? So he's dealing with the aftermath of the Second World War, and it's as present day, but it's him just arriving and seeing it all, seeing the consequences of it all.
Right.
And it's a complete work of satire, and it's fantastic, and you should watch it. But there's a bunch of stuff that happens in there, which there's a bunch of language used in that because it's Hitler, where he's talking derogatorily about Jews. Now, is that inoffensive? Is that offensive in and of itself? Or looking at it, looking at the body of work and the context in which it was made, it's clearly a satire of the whole thing. It's not saying he was right to say this. It's like, look at how absurd it is. But then at the same time, he gets back into politics, and he runs under the platform of everyone just thinks he's dressed up as Hitler, and in like some weird sense of irony, and they're kind of making it clear, like, actually no, this kind of charismatic leader thing, and running on like a joke platform like Trump did. People legit get into power like that, and that's precisely how the fucking Holocaust happened. So, it's a very good kind of social commentary, very self-aware film. Just check it out. It's on Netflix.
All right.
So, that's that
anyway,
plug.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about whitewashed. Now, there are two. The other thing that gets said in this is that there are two pieces of evidence cited, and I've already kind of explained why the Ken Livingstone one doesn't fit. Now, do I understand why certain Jews are offended by what Ken Livingstone said? Yeah, absolutely. Does it make it anti-Semitic though? That's the debate. I don't see it. So, as for the other one is Jeremy Corbyn, where the way this video is edited is fucking extraordinary. It's literally starting mid-sentence and cutting off just before the next sentence gets said kind of job.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the line where JC.
It was pretty bad.
It's the line where JC says, "Our friends are Hamas and Hezbollah." Right. Oh no, he said friends of Hamas and Hezbollah. They fucking hate Jews and they hate Israel. Actually, like more specifically, they hate Israel. Let's just be clear on that. And there's various reasons for that.
But who doesn't?
Right. So.
Okay. Again, just to break me
mid-flow. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well, you do.
No. Go. I do. Yeah.
And you talk over me. Just to break for a moment. I just want to say, I don't actually hate Israel. This is again, comedy.
Please look at this body of work in its proper context. I mean, technically, are we not violating hate speech laws?
Yes, we are.
Right.
I think we're just kind of hoping for the same fame that Count Dankula got. That's what we're aiming for now, really.
You know what?
President, you want a YouTube career? Say something offensive.
Okay, no. Here's a little hint as to what to do if Count Dankula's case doesn't go the way you want. Start uploading videos onto YouTube with no context that are just full of racial epithets, and that'll prove the point. Like, no, this is actually what it looks like. This is what the law is here to try and prevent.
Have you seen the video that's like, I'm not sorry?
No.
Okay, it's a YouTube video that's all about how this kid's like, I'm not sorry for the colonisation of third world countries. Like, they don't know what they're doing without us.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Once we left, they went back to their degenerate ways.
There's a name for this.
I'm not sorry for like feeling superior because like white people are like centuries.
Because I am superior.
Right, and the whole thing's like that, and it was just like, yeah, that comes on that I can imagine whoever made that, if they got done.
I would argue it falls under the right of free expression.
I mean, I would as well.
I mean, at no point. I mean, unless he's like said, unless he's actually
really upset.
Unless he's actually like legit encouraged violence against a group of people, which is what that law is existing there. That law exists for. I mean, he can express whatever stupid fucking opinion he wants. It doesn't change the fact he's wrong. And this goes back to my point. Deconstruct it, like break it down, so like make it clear why that's fucking bullshit. And then get on with it. Stop taking your own fucking like offence so fucking seriously. And can we have a fucking conversation?
Yeah, but aren't you offended by the fact that they're being offended, and thereby aren't we just in an offence?
I'm having a rant. I mean, like I'm not. My response to that argument is that my response to someone doing that is not going to be like, I can't believe you've just done that. I'm so offended. Like my response is to kind of counter why that is to say why that is counterproductive, which is literally what I was just saying.
Yeah,
that's not me saying I'm offended by that. Therefore, listen to me and don't do it. Like that's not what I'm saying.
I know. I was just trolling you.
Oh, okay.
Well
done.
Thanks.
It worked.
It did. And as soon as it worked, I was like, damn. I was hoping he'd call me on it, and no, it's gone straight through his defences.
Which are numerous.
We've talked enough about whitewashing.
Yeah. Okay.
Stupid. I mean, like
Jews. This. Fucking hell.
Yeah, it's pretty bad today. Like, I think my give a fuck factor is
this one is
to
getting
zero.
Dank.
Yeah.
So
dank.
I can smell that dank.
I can smell the anti-Semitism.
This racism is killing me.
Off of my balls.
So there was a meeting today with JC and some representatives of certain...
Jesus Christ.
Jeremy Corbyn. So yes, Jesus Christ. Our Lord and Saviour.
Oh, Jeremy Corbyn.
All I'm saying is, Jesus Christ would have taken back the means of production.
Yeah, maybe.
And Jesus Christ was a socialist. Yeah, Republicans.
Oh.
I said it. Come at me.
I'll be honest. I don't think they're gonna. Because they're so scared of you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yeah.
So he meant Jeremy Corbyn met with JC, our Lord and Saviour. He met with a number of Jewish groups.
Sorry, just for a moment there, it genuinely sounded like you were like, Jeremy Corbyn met with Jesus Christ, our Lord and Saviour.
Who was I referring to?
Anyway, sorry. He met himself? What the fuck?
So, now, the end of this meeting...
Sorry, who did he meet with?
Certain leaders, and I'm using my language quite specifically here,
yeah,
because that's not how it's portrayed in the news, because certain leaders of certain groups, certain interest groups that represent certain Jewish communities in the UK,
right,
he met with them.
Okay.
To discuss Labour's problem of anti-Semitism and what Labour's response was going to be. Now, the reason I'm choosing my language very specifically there is because the news is portraying it as if Jeremy Corbyn met with a bunch of representatives who represent all Jews. Let that sink in for a sec. Who represents all Caucasians?
Me.
Right.
Clearly
Who
me.
represents all women?
Again, me.
Right. Who represents all men?
Me.
Me.
I'm glad we've cleared that up.
So I just kind of want to let that sink in for a moment, because that's how they're portraying it.
Yeah.
Now, given that there's this whole conspiracy about, like, a Jewish conspiracy about how they're all in it together, painting it that way by the media strikes me as a little bit anti-Semitic. Like, if I was wanting to be a dick about it. Like, you are literally saying with that he met with representatives who represent the views of all Jews.
When do you not want to be a dick about it, though? You go ahead.
Yeah, right.
You struck your stuff.
Right, so, point made, I think. So, there was a thing that was said that got me intrigued, to the point where I did some proper research. They were requesting that the Labour Party adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, and I've forgotten who the IHRA are, which I am now going to look up.
Cool.
So what I would like to do is discuss.
Well, in the meantime, I can get into more detail about the plot of my book. Right. So I'm still struggling with like how much of the future is Hitler going to be able to see. So like, are we going to just have like brief glimpses of like you know the
flash forwards,
the huge war of nukes and destruction, or are we going to have him like flash forward into a new dystopian future run by Jews?
It's intriguing.
Yeah, it really is. So like,
I'm compelled.
And where there's like they almost go into like this like Spartan style Jewish community where the Jewish are the Spartans, and then everybody else is the slave workforce, and then so like Hitler before this was just trying to give the Jews a place to live, but now realizes that like this is like,
you know what this reminds me of?
this is, the Jewish people are going to destroy the world.
Yeah, you know what this
they killed Jesus for a reason, man.
You know what this reminds me of?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but for those of you that don't know, I was raised born again Christian, which is kind of like the like Bible Belt America version of Christianity. So, I was raised on some quite conservative
UK version.
Yeah, and can pray away the gay and shit like that, right? And being a practicing homosexual.
Why do you want to pray away though? Well,
right, exactly. So,
love me a bit of dick.
Here's the thing. Because of the amount of televangelism kind of shit, evangelical Christian shit, right? The thing is, because of how much money is made by televangelism Christianity, and like we've all seen like the photos of these massive mansion complexes by pastors who are big in the televangelism community, where people just ring in and donate money, right?
Yeah.
Right. They've got enough money to have their own little version of Hollywood.
Oh yeah, right? I remember this.
Yeah, so there are so many films out there that are basically financed by conservative Christians in America, which are like their kind of responses to issues at the time. Bad. So like they'll be like
the Scientology does that as well.
Yeah, right. And like what you've just like the way you've kind of painted it and the way it's kind of run, that idea.
What, you think I should go get funding from the
alt-right? No, not from them.
Oh my god, Matt, we should go and get funding from the alt-right. This would be amazing.
Actually, yeah, the alt-right.
Can we try this?
What, and troll it? Like,
yeah. Can we actually we write the book, right? But it's a huge satire that they know, but we try and do it so they never realise.
So what, like they did with Starship Troopers?
I'm actually going to start a Kickstarter for this.
It's like they did with Starship Troopers. Don't do a Kickstarter, just go to the alt-right. Or you can get the alt-right to donate the money.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
We'll need pseudonyms.
Why?
Because we've got a podcast that's literally us stating this plan.
Oh yeah, good point. But like nobody listens to our podcast.
That's true.
So we'll probably get away with it.
This will be our evidence.
It's like
we're not actually alt-right.
In fact, if anyone's stupid enough to not research us and find this out, then I feel like they deserve it. Anyway, so
you've got a point.
Okay.
I'm game.
All right. Cool.
Fuck it. Let's try it.
Cool. We're doing this. This is going to be great.
The IHRA...
You might get arrested.
Here's hoping. The IHRA stands for the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. Now, I don't know who this group is and who they represent, but this is what the Jewish representatives who JC met today were. One of the things I requested is that the Labour Party adopts this definition, and I'd like to read you a bit of what this definition, of what the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism is. It says, adopt the following non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed towards Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and/or their property, towards Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. The problem I have here with this language is specifically the use of may. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. So what's the wiggle room?
Whatever they feel like at the time.
Right, it's a bit vague. So, to guide IHRA in its work, the following examples may serve as illustrations. Okay, here we go. Oh. Manifestations might include the targeting of the state of Israel conceived as a Jewish collectivity.
Wait, so saying that Israel is a Jewish thing? Literally just going, Israel is all about the Jews?
Yeah.
Which is exactly what it is, though.
Yeah.
So, or are we now trying to forget that? Are we trying to rewrite history? Is it just another nation that happens to be predominantly
There's
Jewish?
another part to this.
Are you allowed to be of any other religion and live in Israel?
Israelis would say yes. It depends which part of Israel you're in. Let me explain this one.
What? How close you are to the edge?
Keep in mind that the edge is moving.
Constantly changing. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like.
So, okay, I don't know if I've spoken about this before, but there is this thing that is done by certain, I'm choosing my language quite specifically here, by certain special interest groups who claim that they're doing this in the name of the Jewish people.
You've told me, I'm not sure if it's on the podcast.
Yeah, I don't think it is on the podcast. There is a name for it, and I'll probably in the next podcast I'll confirm what the name is. But basically, here's what happens: land and property gets bought up in Palestine, in
countries surrounding
in
Israel.
Palestine. Yeah, this is kind of what's going on in the Gaza Strip right now. And this was Arab-owned, so Palestinian and... when I say Arab, I don't mean Muslim, like, not to conflate the two. Arab is the...
Arab is a general term for everyone that lives there.
Yeah.
Literally. Everyone who isn't Jewish.
Yeah, apparently.
In that area.
Well, okay, here's the thing, because here's what happens. So, like, a house will get bought, okay? Then the way the house gets bought is by people... In America, tends to be where it comes from. People in America donate money to this organisation. This organisation then buys up property. They put massive walls around it and secure it so that it can't be attacked. They'll also pay for private security to act as asset
Sounds like it would cost a lot of money.
It does, okay? And this is kind of where that conspiracy about Jewish bankers comes from. Because of this behaviour. It's perpetuated by this kind of behaviour.
Right.
Just to be clear. There's no smoke without fire, and that isn't me saying that there is a Jewish banker conspiracy, but it is me saying that a huge amount of economic might is being put behind Israel expanding its borders this way.
Yeah.
Not the same thing, just to be clear. They do this, then they'll get a Jewish family from America to go live there in that property. And then they'll do it to every other property, and then slowly but surely everyone else will leave, and then they'll erect a border partition around that small settlement, and then they'll eventually incorporate it into their main defence line. And this is how Israel is expanding its. This is how certain sections of Israel are expanding its borders. And this is why Palestine,
trying to take them over.
And this, but that's too obvious, right?
No, they tried it
several
times.
They've tried it and succeeded at times,
yeah.
But. Like, there is so my point here is, imagine if, and there are going to be certain right-wingers in the UK who are saying, well, they're doing that now. Imagine if you live on a street, and then on that street, slowly but surely, it gets bought up by a particular group. This group is very culturally different from you, okay? And while they buy up that property, they erect a load of stuff illegally and not following any planning permission. So, like, let's use like a UK example. So, like, you've got a park over your road, and then some travellers come in and just pitch their caravans there. That's going to aggravate you, okay? And now here's the next scenario. This is what Israel is doing. They do that. They get their caravans there. They then erect a wall around it.
No, it's not right.
They then send in a militia.
This is a bad comparison. Imagine the travelling community buys all of the properties on your street, and then moves their caravans into all of the driveways and starts living in the street as like it was one big caravan park.
That's true, yeah.
Then because like
and then
they're just moving in without buying it.
And like, that's true. And
then they're putting walls around the place, and then they're hiring big scary men to make sure that you don't come anywhere near.
And they're making your life a fucking misery.
Yeah.
Now, how much?
Of course they are. They're stinking gypsies.
How much would that piss you off?
Oh.
Right. Would it piss you off enough to start buying into the propaganda that there is this grand Jewish conspiracy? Just a thought.
If you're a weaker man, maybe.
Just a thought. Because does that perhaps explain why some of the sentiments that is shared by a lot of Muslims, and I'm not exaggerating here, that there is some grand Jewish conspiracy? This is a problem within the Muslim community, and I'm not going to for 1 second pretend it's not. This idea that there is some sort of grand Jewish conspiracy to control the world.
They're all in on it.
Yeah, basically, that's where these stereotypes come in, and part of the stuff that feeds that fire is this shady behaviour. So, like, this goes back to my point about there's no smoke without fire. It does come from somewhere, and this is one of the things where it comes from. And, like, to pretend that it doesn't, and that Israel is doing no wrong and is completely in the right, and that Palestine can do no wrong and is completely in the right is fucking bullshit. You both do shady fucking shit. It's just one of you has got way more economic might behind the other, which makes you look like a fucking bully. Yeah, Israel, I'm talking to you.
You're so tough behind your mic, Matt.
Yeah, right. No, because I say this to everyone.
But speaking of gypsies, this might segue quite nicely into...
Well, no, because I haven't finished listing the examples from the IHR guidelines. Okay. But by all means, segue.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Speaking of gypsies, I'm sure you've got something really nice to say.
Oh, I was just going to say we could talk about the pensioner and the gypsies getting pissed.
Yeah, let's talk about him, actually, because it's kind of relevant to this, because this is to do with like social agitation caused by the behaviour of certain cultural groups. And
so this happened a little bit ago now. We're kind of a little bit out of touch with this, but there was a pensioner. How old was he? 76?
He was old.
He was getting on. And he was in his home with his disabled wife, also of a similar age, when two men broke in with screwdrivers and tried to rob him. And this gentleman went down and defended his home and stabbed one of the men who entered his home, who then then both men left, and the man who he stabbed then died in the street a couple of streets away, fell down and died. He was then arrested.
The pensioner.
Yeah, the pensioner was then arrested. Due process, essentially.
We've had this conversation on the previous podcast.
Oh, did we? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is then a recap. The pensioner was then arrested. He has now been released because he was found to not be in the wrong.
To be rightly defending his home, and due process saw that he shouldn't be charged for anything.
So he was freed. Although I'm sure there are
reasonable force.
I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who are currently feeling that because they shared whatever it was on Facebook that they were the reason that the man was freed. And you keep believing that. Good for you. You keep living in this world where you are important. It's we all need that. Yeah, we really do. Anyway, so what then happened after that is some gypsies, some stinking brother gypsies.
I think the acceptable term now is travellers.
Right. Okay. Some gypsies. Okay. So another
bringing
side
that back
note, right? Okay. So first of all, go watch Meat Mysteries on YouTube.
Again, we've plugged that before.
Yeah, but it has the stinky filthy gypsy reference in it. It's funny. Also, another reason why I am saying stinky filthy gypsies and gypsies a lot is because me and Matt went to a LARP, and a couple of people got really irate about the fact that we were saying stinky, filthy gypsies. So now I feel the need to say gypsies purely to piss that person off, even though I know it's technically kind of
Actually, there
insulting.
is something I kind of want to add to this, which is that what I tend to hear from people who take issue with the term gypsy is
Their great grandfather.
is they're like, well, my grandmother was a gypsy and she raised me and taught me about like gypsy culture, and you can't use that as a pejorative. Now, here's the thing: my grandfather was a gypsy, and he only ever talked about it once.
And then my podcast partner turned around and said that his great grandfather was a gypsy.
This is going to make
So
no
I shot
sense.
him twice in the face.
This
Just
is
to
going
be
to
sure.
make no sense to anyone listening who hasn't
I
seen
don't
that.
give a fuck.
So, okay, the reason I bring this up is because he only talked about it once. And the only other few times I've gotten close to the community and discussed it
What did you do with the podcasts? I drowned them in a bath full of razor blades and bleach.
is I just kind of want to make something very clear. If you marry someone within the outside of the gypsy community that they don't approve of and they aren't brought into the fold, you're ostracized.
You are no longer a gypsy.
You're no longer a gypsy. You're seen as no longer a gypsy.
Unless they
And
are
everyone knows.
approved of, right?
Everyone knows this. Like, this will do the rounds. Like, yeah, they're not with the family anymore. Like, it's the fucking mafia. Not to kind of use that stereotype, but
It's kind of accurate.
it's kind of accurate. And now, so whenever I hear people talk about, like, oh, my grandmother told me all about this, like, gypsy culture and heritage and beliefs and that, I always kind of feel, no, they really didn't. Because when your grandmother married your granddad, she was probably ostracized from the family and shut the fuck up. Like, seriously. I don't know what you think you know, but the way you're talking about it, clearly bullshit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
Preach it.
and to use a kind of a gypsy way of dealing with this kind of confrontation, if you want to have a knife fight about it or a bare knuckle fight about it, I'm game.
You are on point with all of your come at me bros over the mic today. I'm impressed.
Like, I'm just like
you are gunning for this imaginary fight.
and this goes back to my point about get the fuck over yourself.
And fight me. Like that. We've now got the title of the podcast.
And fight me.
Get over yourself and fight me.
Fight me. Like, it's fucking pissing me off. Anyway, I wanted to say that.
Anyway.
So back to the old age pensioner.
Yeah, so some gypsies started holding sigils in his
Road, opposite his house.
Yeah, opposite his house for the guy that he stabbed.
They erected a fucking shrine of like flowers and like letters and notes, all of which had the suspiciously same handwriting. Go figure.
So this, so if you're not quite twigging at the moment, this is kind of mean in the fact that like they're basically intimidating.
They are doing this purely to intimidate
Yeah.
this old age pensioner who did nothing more than defend his home. So
From
yeah,
a stinking, filthy gypsy.
it's a little crass. It's a little crass to kind of feign offence and insult when like one of your family members has died, breaking into someone's house.
Yeah, it's you can't really. There is no like. You know, it's like going. Like, it's like if your kid murdered someone and then committed suicide, and then you going and trying to mourn your kid at their funeral. Like, it's kind of a little bit of a fucking dick move, and you should fucking shut up and go.
And there's been some developments. So literally the night this shrine went up, it was put up during the day, and that night someone fucking trashed it. And the whole fucking neighbourhood got behind it. So whenever people came to put it back up, as soon as they left, they'd fucking trash it again. They tear down all the flowers and stuff just because they were like, no, it's not appropriate. You want to mourn them, that's fine, but don't do it here. You are doing this specifically to intimidate this OAP. Don't get me wrong, like this whole don't speak ill of the dead shit, like it has its place, but the way they are using it, they are using that sentiment, they're totally using that sentiment as a weapon against an old age pensioner and his wife.
I'd like to go on record and say fuck the dead. They don't give a shit.
If you're an arsehole when you're alive, you're still an arsehole when you're dead.
Yeah. No, it's just like, oh, Bill, he was such a fucking dickhead, but now he's dead. I'm going to say some real nice things about him.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But my point is they're using that kind of sentiment of like, oh, can't tear up a shrine to a dead person.
Watch me.
Yeah. So the other thing that they're looking at that they've said they're going to do is when they do the funeral procession, they're going to go past the house.
Oh.
That's going to be interesting.
They're basically doing a Westboro Baptist church on this thing, aren't they?
Kinda, yeah. And
except it's even more insidious because, like, the Westboro Baptist
Church.
Yeah,
those guys.
Those guys. They're like, they don't. Like, it's not personal for them, is it? They just kind of pick people and go for them.
Oh yeah, it's not. Like it's not systematically. They'll hound down the same family, grieving family, and pick at the funeral, the house.
No, like,
and
so what they do is fucking horrific, but they do it in like a kind of random.
They're consistent.
Like in a twisted, fucked up way, it is their beliefs, and that is what they feel like they have to do. Whereas this is specifically an intimidation of someone. They're like, "You killed our guy, and we're gonna fuck you."
Yeah.
Like, which is just like.
I'm not gonna lie, classic gypsy move. I don't mean that in an offensive way. This is the culture, right? This straight up is the culture. And like to fucking deny that and say that that's fucking like bigoted and racist. No, it's not. It's acknowledging for what it is. Sorry, like there is a reason these tensions exist, and it's because of dickish behaviour like this. That's not me saying all gypsies are terrible people. I just don't agree with that particular aspect of their culture. In the same way I don't agree with fucking circumcision. Doesn't mean I hate all fucking Muslims and Jews.
And most of the US.
Yeah, most of the US. Although, coincidentally...
You do hate most of the US. Okay, fair enough. That's what you were going for with that, I see.
And Jews and Muslims.
But I'm alright with gypsies, funnily enough, weirdly.
Oddly, gypsies okay in my book.
Yeah, especially since they brought me that big old TV. Now that was anti-gypsyism.
Bigoted, racist, I don't know, like, what do you want to call it?
Oh, I'm so on point today.
So, it was like an anti-racist gypsy joke. Yeah, you are. That's it, kiss those guns. Now, put a little saliva out on your lips.
No, can we not? Can we not? Not on the podcast, man. Save it till after.
Alright.
Yeah, good man.
So yeah, there's. I'm curious to see how it develops. Of course, the Daily Mail is on it. There is a journalist out there every day, and of course, I've liked their Facebook group, and they post that shit constantly. So I'm getting daily updates of what's going on here. So
well done.
We will get back to you on this one. The other thing I've realised, and can't remember if I mentioned this in the last podcast, I have started liking Facebook groups that don't agree with my point of view. Okay.
I think I might have to start doing that as well.
Yeah, so I'm finding shit that I would never find out, and I'm seeing bullshit and calling bullshit on shit that I would never have found before. I got banned on no, I didn't get banned. I got muted on the Jedi Church Facebook group. As by the way,
no fucking way.
Yeah. It was
the
fucking
Jedi's
brilliant.
Muted you.
Yeah.
Oh man,
no,
get some Jedi mind tricks and shit.
A Jedi muted me, right?
They mind tricked you are not talking.
And then I contacted all the other admins and did a breakdown of like how everything I'd said hadn't really broken the things that he was citing that I'd broken, and then said except this last one, but I like this last one only applies if any of the previous ones apply, and I don't think any of them do. And literally they all kind of turned around and was like, yeah, I don't know why he's done this. I've unmuted you. I was like, can I get an apology from the master?
You see that I don't understand how you manage to do this, because whenever I get like banned or muted or something, I'm just like, well, that's me over. But you're always like, nah, you fight it and you win. Why do you always win, Matt? Oh, it's so fucking jealous.
Because I go by the policy of I can rebuild this bridge, and you go by the policy of I'll just let it burn. In a nutshell, that
was way too real. That was so beyond. Like, that was like, I was going for like a 3 and you went straight to 10, and I was not ready. So, yeah. What's the next fucking topic?
Well, I was going to finish off these definitions.
Oh, no! God, I don't want to talk about the Jews anymore.
Well, I just find it interesting.
No, I do. Go.
So to guide IHRA in its work, the following examples may serve as illustrations. Manifestations might include the targeting of the State of Israel, conceived as a Jewish collectivity. However, criticism of Israel similarly to that levelled against any other country cannot be regarded as anti-Semitic. So basically what they're saying there is, as long as you criticise Israel in equal amount to every other country, it's fine.
But all countries aren't created equal.
Yeah.
So
the other interesting one I find here is this idea of Jewish collectivity. You know, you were asking earlier, like, are there Muslims and Christians in Israel? Like, there are, but doesn't the guidelines that you're wanting to the Labour Party to adopt is basically saying that no, Israel is actually a Jewish collectivity. Which effectively means that if you adopt that in a geopolitical sense, you are saying that Jews in Israel are primary class citizens and anyone else, like Muslims and Christians and atheists, are second class to that narrative.
You know, like, this is a little bit off topic, but did you ever watch, like, what was it, Z Nation? Or the one with Brad Pitt?
World War Z.
World War Z. Where he goes to Israel. Like, they did not portray Israel. Like, they had an opportunity there to really kind of, like...
I think they did.
Well, really?
They opened their doors to their neighbours and let them into their walls.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, in the movie?
Yeah.
Oh.
Which backfired.
Yeah. Well, no. It only backfired because they all started singing.
Yeah. But if they just shut their gates, that wouldn't have happened.
True. But would Israel have opened their gates, though? To dirty non-Jews?
Well, I mean, like, just to be clear, like, there are, like, I'm not going to pretend, I don't want to paint Israel as this fucking dark spectre. It's not. Like, it's just, there are just some aspects and interest groups within Israel and outside of Israel who want to kind of push a certain agenda. So those people on, like, the Gaza Strip buying up property, that doesn't represent Israel. It's just an aspect of Israel that's fucking pissing off everyone else, right?
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying there. I'm not saying that's the Jewish people doing that. I'm saying that's special interest groups doing that. Some of whom I'm sure are Jewish, right? It's just a coincidence that they're Jewish. That's what they want to do, right? Like I said, this has got nothing to do with a race of people. It's got everything to do with what particular groups are doing. And some of those things go beyond race.
Yeah.
In fact, everything criticism I've raised here, it's got nothing to do with race. They're trying to paint it as if it's a racial thing, but that's them. I'm not doing that. Like this idea of Jewish collectivity. This is their. This is the IHRA's idea of like this is what anti-Semitism is. This goes back to that whole thing of trying to repaint what racism means. It's like you can only be racist if you also hold economic power. Which is why black people can't be racist. Like, fuck off with your Orwellian bullshit and trying to rewrite it like what words mean. Okay, anti-Semitism. That's where you're criticizing someone purely for the fact that they're Jewish. End of. That's all anti-Semitism is. Like, stop trying to tie it to a fucking country. Stop trying to tie it to a particular ideology. That's all it is. Let's start from there.
All right.
Again, fucking rant from my part, but
that seems to be what you need, man.
Yeah, anti-Semitism frequently charges Jews with conspiring to harm humanity, and it is often used to blame Jews for why things go wrong.
Wait, say that again?
Anti-Semitism frequently charges Jews with conspiring to harm humanity, and it is often used to blame Jews for why things go wrong.
I
don't doubt that there's some bullshit from like interest groups within Palestine that is pushing that narrative. I'll accept that. Like, just like in the UK, there's people put like the fucking EDL and fucking Britain First who like raid halal butchers and stuff and fucking shout hate and say that they're bringing in all the pedophiles and all that stuff. Same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I don't doubt that narrative is being spun by Palestinians against Israelis. Against Jews.
By the way, did you hear about this kind of like ring of rapists?
What, the Pakistani ring?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, there's a thing. Unfortunately, like the public response to that was lacking, much like it was lacking with David fucking Bowie. Which was that, well, we can't say this because, I mean, like, interesting, like, actually, that said, here's the thing. It's not like when Jimmy Savile was, like, outed for what he was. No one said, Caucasian Christian, UK Christian, protected by the BBC. But like, if they have a different nationality background, that is always what makes the headline. So like, there is a kind of like institutionalized racism there, and I'll accept that. Like Jimmy Savile's faith was never mentioned once, whereas if you're Muslim, like, it's the fucking headline, mate.
Yeah, well, it's just like the headline, which was like, ex-con saves woman from like burning car or something like that. And it's like, yeah,
he's forever going to be an ex-con.
Yeah, great, you know.
So it is expressed in speech, writing, visual forms, and action, and employs sinister stereotypes and negative character traits. So can't meme about it, I guess. Contemporary examples of anti-Semitism in public life. The media, schools, the workplace, and in the religious sphere could, taking into account the overall context, include, but are not limited to, the following. Calling for, aiding, or justifying the killing or harming of Jews in the name of radical ideology or an extreme view of religion. So, for example, the comments I made about those special interest groups that are trying to extend Israeli borders, and I'm saying that they are a separate entity from the Jewish people as a whole, that's anti-Semitic according to this definition. Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as collective, such as, especially but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy, or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or societal institutions. Remember that mural? It's currently my Facebook cover, actually. That was labelled anti-Semitic because it has like the Illuminati all-seeing eye pyramid thing, and then there are 6 men sat around like a Monopoly board. Do you know the mural I'm on about?
No, actually.
Right. Jeremy Corbyn like basically said like the mural was
he
great.
Liked it, yeah.
Yeah, and like a concern was raised like from the Jewish Quarter in London, because the mural is close to the Jewish Quarter in London, that it was anti-Semitic because 2 of the people are Jewish. Let that sink in. 2 of the 6 people around the table are Jewish, and it's the Illuminati, therefore it must be referencing the Jewish conspiracy. No.
Well, I don't know. There are
no, son. It's referencing J.P. Morgan and the Bilderberger, not the Bilderberger, the Rothschilds, 2 major Jewish families who were who are quite possibly the richest people on the planet. Certainly the richest family on the planet. Now, I would argue this is a classic case of was it post hoc ad propter hoc. It's just a coincidence that they're Jewish. What we're actually referencing here is economic power, and you're trying to spin it to that. So yeah, like. I'm sorry, the Jews don't own the Illuminati conspiracy. There are lots of Illuminati conspiracies, okay? One of them is the Jewish conspiracy. Another one is that they're all reptiles. So
don't forget the cloud people.
Yeah, right. So, like, don't, like, say that, like... Anyway.
Cloud people are eating all the babies. Yeah.
Like, Obama's turning our frogs gay. Here's hoping. Finally, a policy I can get behind. Accusing Jews as people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group, or even for acts committed by non-Jews.
Okay, look, I'm not saying the Jewish people are evil, but there's a reason a time traveller went back to talk to Hitler about the Jews.
There's a reason the stereotype exists.
Okay, now I'm really worried that if I write this book and the apocalypse happens and that book survives,
that's what you're going to be remembered for.
No, people are going to read it and go, "Oh my God, is this what happened?" That's the book I need to write.
Reading this definition, like, is it not fucking obvious that this is like a special interest pro-Israeli Israel group?
Sounds like a safe space to me.
Yeah, right. And is it not fair to, like, the reason I'm reading about this is because
I think the thing that everybody needs to realise is that the world isn't a safe place.
Yeah, and all I want to say about this here is I completely stand behind Jeremy Corbyn 100% in refusing to take on this definition. And as a Labour member, I am happy that he did it. And I don't consider that anti-Semitic.
Boom.
Right.
That sounds like final thoughts to me.
It's not final thought. There's so much more.
Oh, no. Is there any chance we could wrap it up?
Why, you want the bounce?
My headache is getting worse.
Okay.
And I'm not sure I can keep going. It's my main problem. I know I'm letting you down, man.
You really fucking are.
I know.
But
Also, we've been told we need to keep our podcast shorter, so fuck them, let's go for another hour.
Give our minuscule audience what it wants.
Yeah, our audience of one.
We can make that the final thought if you want.
I am flagging. I do apologise. I apologise to the audience as well in calling this short. But yeah.
I forgive you.
Well, thank you.
I just hope our fans do. So my final thought is Jeremy Corbyn did nothing wrong.
And my final thought is fuck the stinking father James's! James!
This has certainly been the dankest podcast.
I love the fact that you decided from the very beginning of this that it was going to be the dankest podcast, and you've been pushing that. You've been pushing it.
It's not it's not like I've been.
It is the dankest.
Sorry, just to be clear, it's not like I've been consciously like, oh, he's given me permission. I'm going to bring out my fucking dank A game. That's not what I did. All right, that's not what I did.
No, I just we already got the title. All right, it's not going to be this is the dankest podcast. All right,
okay.
All right.
Yeah,
it's going to be get over yourself and fight me. Well, no, yeah, that was it. Anyway,
get over yourself and let's have a gypsy knife fight.